Are you ready to dive into the world of project management? Hit that subscribe button as we explore how to stay relevant in the agile workforce. In the project finance domain, this is a key topic area, planning project costs. So you can download this, like all study guides, on the EverTech and the project leaders page. So we're going to talk first about basis for your project cost estimates. This starts with involving supporting additional information involved with your cost estimates. You're going to include project scope, your justification for any of your estimates, assumptions, constraints, confidence levels of your estimates, and your expected range of those estimates. This is your basis for your estimates. We're also going to talk about project management estimating software. This is any software that you can use that can assist with cost estimating while managing your projects. This can include Microsoft Excel, Microsoft Project, Primavera, and there's also GPTs or other AI different platforms available. Activity cost estimates. Now, one thing I want to talk about, you want to make sure that you have received proper authorization from management for whatever estimating software that you're using. Activity cost estimates, these are providing estimates of the cost necessary to finish that project work. This includes cost of direct labor, materials, equipment, facilities, services, information technology, contingency reserves, and indirect costs. Each activity is added together to create an overall cost estimate for that work package. Remember, we have a different guide where we talk about planning for the project schedule, your work breakdown structure. You're breaking it down to the work package level, which is where you're putting your cost and your schedule time together. That's where we're getting to your activity cost estimates. Vendor bid analysis, cost estimation technique based on those bids and how you're going to evaluate those vendors. Remember this key component. You may not be part of that vendor bid analysis. It may be a procurement team, but as a project manager or as a project leader, you're going to have to assist that procurement team to letting them know what is preferred from an evaluation tool. Proposed costing from vendors is considered while developing estimates from projects. It can be indicative of figures with less accuracy or very accurate detailed figures. So there are advantages and disadvantages for various different estimating techniques. We're going to discuss some of these estimating techniques, and I also have this on one of my other. I'm going to link all the other related videos and study guides that we have. The ones that we're going to discuss are analogous, bottom up, and parametric. Analogous, the advantages of this is this ensures that no work is inadvertently omitted from work estimates. However, it sometimes can be difficult for less experienced managers to apportion for cost estimates because this is using a lot of that expert judgment and experience from historical information. Bottom up estimating, remember this is preferred because this is including all activities at the work package level. It's very accurate and gives lower level managers more responsibility, but it can only be completed when the work breakdown structure is well defined and is very time consuming. Parametric. This is not time consuming at all because it's using that mathematical model. However, it may be inaccurate because the data that goes in, bad data, bad outputs, depending upon the integrity of the historical information that you have used. Estimating the cost baseline. This is when you're consolidating the costs into a project budget and preparing the project cost baseline. You want to track project cost associated with each work package at that work breakdown structure. And you want to understand at a particular point within that life cycle how much those costs will be. And this will help you track those project costs so you can set up that cash flow for the project and ensure that you can measure that cost performance. Because ultimately, if you don't have costs associated with the time towards the schedule, then you're not able to assess from the metrics, those performance metrics, to see if you're on track. We're going to talk a little bit more in depth about cost baselines. Cost baselines are a time-phased budget that will monitor and measure cost performance throughout that project life cycle. It's developed by adding estimated costs to the project components that are needed. And typically it includes the budget contingency to accommodate the risk of incurring unidentifiable but normally occurring costs with a defined scope. Cost aggregation is a time-phased budget that will monitor and measure cost performance throughout the project lifecycle. And it's developed by adding the estimated cost of the project components by the period. And this typically includes the budget to accommodate the risk for incurring unidentifiable but normally occurring costs within that defined scope. Contingency allowances, these are additional funds that are sometimes built into these cost estimates and allow for unanticipated events. These allowances for projects ensure that the project manager can manage unforeseen costs and expenditures. There are two types. You have a contingency reserve, and this is added at the activity level by the project manager to account for the risk that might affect that activity. And in the management reserve, this is added at the project level by the sponsor to account for unknowns. So when adding a contingency reserve to the budget, avoid a contingency on a contingency. It needs to be based on the WBS input, and you need to ensure that the WBS packages do not already have a contingency amount tacked to that basis estimate. As the project manager, you must release the contingency funds only through a closely controlled and well-documented process, and it's included in that cost management plan. We're going to talk a little bit more about cost methods, cost assignment methods, and the descriptions of these. We have a 50-50% rule. This means that 50% credit is given to an activity when it begins, and then the remaining 50% is given when it's completed. The percentage complete rule is a percentage of the estimate is assessed to be at a specific reporting interval. It's most commonly used and it's most generally considered accurate, that percentage complete. And then we also have weighted milestones. This total work package is divided up and assigned by milestone interval within a work package. Each milestone carries a budgeted value. Value is earned when a milestone is achieved. This works well with long work packages with multiple activities. Then project funding requirements. These are determined from cost baselines and when funding occurs in increments. And these are not continuous, but periodic, sometimes quarterly or annually based on the project's funding. And the total amount of funds includes the cost baseline and the management reserve. The project funding requirements, they define the amounts of funds required when they are required as well. And you want to reconcile these costs and funds. Once all the costs are estimated and you verify that there's no discrepancy between the funds committed and the cost of work that's been done, you want to reconcile the funds with the actual costs and make sure that the work on the project stays on task. And funding limit reconciliation will be the last topic that we're going to discuss on this topic. This is a method for adjusting spending, scheduling, and allocating resources to align the expenditures with budgetary constraints. Most budgets are created on the premise of steady incoming and outgoing flows. Large sporadic expenditures are incompatible with organizational operations. Funding limits are often in place to regulate the outgoing capital flow and protect against overspending. Set for large projects based on internal considerations as well as fiscal years and when they begin and how healthy the cash flows are. Once again, this study guide is about how you're planning project costs. And although a lot of the cost and the planning of finance may not be particularly allocated towards your responsibilities or your duties, you may be working with accounting or procurement department. Your role as a project manager is you're going to integrate. You have to be aware. You have to coordinate. And at the end of the day, you are responsible for those contingency reserves. So you have to understand project cost. You make sure that those metrics are staying on track. Thank you for joining us today. If you found this video helpful, please like, share, and subscribe to this channel for more project management content. See you on the next one.